Hey, welcome back to Azure FunBytes. My name's Jay Gordon. Let's get into it.
An Azure subscription is a logical container used to provision resources in Azure. It holds the details of all your resources like virtual machines, databases, and more. When you create an Azure resource like a VM, you identify the subscription it belongs to. An account can have one subscription or multiple subscriptions that have different billing models and which you apply different access management policies. You can use Azure Subscriptions to define boundaries around Azure products, services, and resources. Depending on your needs, you can set up multiple invoices with the same billing account. To do this, create additional billing profiles. Each billing profile has its own monthly invoice and payment method. The following diagram shows an overview of how billing is structured. If you've previously signed up for Azure, or if your organization has an enterprise agreement, your billing might be set up differently. Azure offers free and paid subscription options to suit different needs and requirements. A free account gets started with 12 months of popular free services, a credit to explore any Azure service for 30 days, and 25 plus services that are always free.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris Noring. I'm a cloud advocate with Microsoft Azure. Now, do I pay anything to start with the Azure free account? No, starting is free, plus you get a credit and you can spend that credit during the first 30 days. Don't waste time and start building.
Pay as you go. The subscription allows you to pay for what you use by attaching a credit or debit card to your account. Organizations can apply for Microsoft for invoicing privileges. Member offers. Your existing membership to certain Microsoft products and services affords you credits for your Azure account and reduced rates on Azure services.
For more information, documentation, and even to get $200 in free credit for Azure, go ahead and click this link below. My name's Jay Gordon. You've been watching Azure FunBytes. I'll see you next time.
It looks like next time is now. Hey, how's it going? I'm Jay. Welcome to Azure FunBytes. I do this just about every week. And what do? We talk about the fundamentals of Azure and ways we can use them and learn them together. My name's Jay Gordon. I am a cloud advocate over at Microsoft Azure. And every week, like I say, I do this and I get an opportunity to meet some of you. And I also get an opportunity to have guests. And one of my guests this week, she's been on here before. And I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself in a way, but I'm going to roll this for you. And then after this, I think I'm going to bring her on, okay?
Everyone asks, where can I go to learn more, about Azure, and I want to, learn more about different technologies. So when I get asked these questions, I tell them two things. The internet has a wealth of information, good and bad, and then having a lab. I know when I was starting out my career, a lab was essential for me. I used the lab for everything. Since work really didn't provide a good lab environment, a good playground for me to break things, I would go home. I had a small little lab set up, and I only used a laptop. And, I spun up VMs. I, practiced PowerShell scripting that way. I actually built Exchange servers within my laptop VM. It was great because it empowered me to learn more. And then the internet. There's so many things that you can learn off the internet. There's YouTube, but there's also free online learning courses, and there's webinars. For instance, Microsoft, we just launched Microsoft Learn. It is a free online learning portal. I'm telling you, free. And you can learn about anything. So there's Azure fundamentals, there's DevOps, there's machine learning, which I don't know much about. And trust me, I'm going to be taking that. Because I definitely want to prevent Skynet. So, with Microsoft Learn, you go through these modules, and it's just like one of those online learning courses that you take through the unnamed learning centers, and you go through modules, and you have these tasks, and they give you this sandbox environment in Azure to basically complete those tasks. And when you complete the modules, that sandbox environment, which is entirely free, gets wiped clean. And then you move on to the next module in that learning path. And then when you're done, you have an idea of what you wanted to learn. I mean, you learn, the fundamentals of, let's say, building a VM. And then you could build upon that knowledge that you just got from Microsoft Learn, or let's say.
And that's our wonderful guest this week. Hello, Phoummala. How are you today?
Good. How are you, Jay? It is the fall. I'm cold. And I was watching that video. I'm like, wow, I had a really good hair day that day.
I wish I knew what that was like. I haven't had one of those in a while. So hey everybody, this is Phoummala Schmitt. Phoummala is a cloud advocate as well over at Microsoft. We both work for Azure and we do some really interesting things. But you know, before we kind of like get into a lot of the fundamentals thingies here, one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about, because it's interesting. I think we're on the last real big trip for the advocates team.
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
we really were part of that like last Microsoft Ignite the Tour group. If I remember, my next trip after where you and I last spent time together, which was Copenhagen, Denmark, was supposed to be Amsterdam. So I leave Copenhagen on February 28th. And if I'm right, you were supposed to stay within Europe, right?
No, I left March 1st, and I was supposed to fly back to Europe that Saturday.
Yeah, for Amsterdam.
The reason why I went
right?
home was
because me too.
I went home because it was my birthday. I wanted to go home and celebrate my birthday at home. But yeah, I got off the plane and I never got back on the plane.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I flew through 3 international airports in about a week and a half, from about February something or other till about the 29th, when I got back to New York, which was funny because it was a leap year February.
Yes. And it was a crazy winter.
Yeah, and it's just kind of strange that like, we really got to do some interesting stuff during that tour. We really learned a lot, I think, as a group, as cloud advocates, and the other people that kind of supported over those 2 years that we did that. And it was kind of hard, I think, for a bunch of us that it came to an end the way it did, because we put so much effort into those talks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was disappointed because, it's a lot of people on my team know I practiced so hard. I mean, and then, I wrote one of the sessions and it's just, it was very disappointing. And I'm missing my teammates, like you, I'm missing Orin, like everyone on the team. Right. So I'm kind of like, wow, but we'll get there. We'll get back on the road again. I mean, you live in New York. I live in Pennsylvania, so we're not that far. But I haven't really. Sorry, but I'm not going to New York anytime soon. I'm not going to any major cities. Let's just say that. I just ventured in my own little, little town that I'm in, and that's pretty much it.
What's funny to me is that I feel so safe here in New York City, and I think the reason why is that
it's your comfort, it's your area, right? You know that area. Where for me, I think just leave. I mean, I went to Virginia, Chincoteague Island, and we rented a beach house, and I got there, and that's pretty much the only place I stayed at. It was, waterfront. I didn't have to go anywhere. And even that, I was really nervous because I felt the homes maybe were a little too close. I'm a little bit more paranoid because my parents do live in my home, and they're at especially high risk. So I'm very cautious.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I'm very cautious where I go and what I do and all that good stuff. But
I have family out in Florida. You know what I mean?
And so, same here. Yeah.
My mom is like, not young. I'm 40. I'm going to be 42 this year. So my mom, is obviously not the youngest person now. And so I do worry a lot. And I actually feel safer here than I do in a place like South Florida.
Yes.
But that's only because I really like what we do here as far as taking care of everybody. Hey, let's say hi to Phil. He's always part of this show. We really appreciate
Phil's awesome. Actually, I think I might go visit Phil. My son just he just got I won't say transferred. He just got assigned to Fort Bragg. So one of these days I will be taking Scarlett for a little road trip down to North Carolina to visit my son down there. But I know I want to get up to New York City. One of my good friends lives there, and she's like, "You need to come up." And I'm like, "Well, once I feel a little bit safer, I think I'll venture
Sure.
for a day or
Everybody's
two."
got to do this on their own terms. I think that that's an interesting part about like where we are right now, and that's cool. Everybody should do things on their own terms, in their comfort zone, and I think that kind of leads me into what I want to talk to you about today.
Yes,
Um,
subscriptions.
we want to talk about being in comfort zones. We want to talk about being safe when we make decisions around using Azure and the cloud in general. And I think that, I've spent some time doing cost optimization at a very, very low level. At a very low level. I've never really done a lot in production. And I think it'd be really interesting for you to kind of give me some insight in one about how we work with subscriptions in Azure. I just know some of the basics, and I'm very lucky. I'm cloud privileged, which means I get a free subscription. But a lot of my viewers, they're not cloud privileged. They have to do this on their own, and so that things are going to cost money.
And money isn't free, right? It doesn't grow on trees. At the least, as far as I can tell, it does not grow on trees. Yeah.
Still hasn't yet.
Yeah. Hey, I've got 2 money trees that are growing in my garage that my mom planted, and it's been 10 years. I still haven't seen a dollar bill come out yet. But
as Kendrick Lamar would say, money trees is the perfect place to shade, and so I'm hoping mine grows as well someday.
But yeah,
anyhow,
the cloud, subscription, all that, it's nice. It's fun, right? And it's quick, it's easy. But once you start using it, that's when you start realizing, okay, this is real money. This isn't, funny money. This isn't, fake money. It's real stuff. I get an invoice, or if you have an enterprise agreement, you get a nice, you get a bill. There's charges to this. It's real dollars, and depending on how your organization is set up, it's gonna come to your cost center, but someone's paying for it, and they're gonna pay for it monthly. I mean, it's just like having your credit card, your wallet. You basically have to have that ready.
So I've put up something that I think is going to be really great documentation for everybody today. If you want to check out, I know we showed Phoummala talking about it at the top of the show. Microsoft Learn is a really great place to start learning how to start doing this kind of cost optimization work. And if we go ahead, I'm just going to bring it up real quick. This is a great place for you to start. There is about an hour and 38 minutes of a learning path, 5 modules that will get you on the road to understanding the costs that are part of working with Azure. And Phoummala is going to be really helpful in taking some of this information and maybe distilling it a little bit for us easier. But I think that when you're ready to start getting your skill up, you really should take a look at the AZ900 learning path. There's so much amazing information. And I think, Phoummala, this is a really great place for you and me to start.
Yeah, and there was one section there, defining Azure subscriptions. Now, when you sign up for Azure, you really have to understand what type of an account do you have. I mean, that's the first step, right? Because that's really going to define how you set up your subscriptions and whatnot. If you are an enterprise, a large organization, or even a small to medium size, most likely you probably want an enterprise. If you already have an enterprise agreement, you're going to go with an enterprise account. Your subscription model is going to be set up slightly different than someone that is a, let's say, a smaller organization, one-person shop, or even a small mom-pop shop, right? You have a smaller organization, so you could just have the Microsoft customer agreement, or you just have one as the pay-as-you-go. It's sort of like an individual account, and those types of subscriptions, like honestly, I have one of those. Yeah, it's for anybody, right? If you want to start using Azure, you get the pay as you go, and you're only being billed for the resources that you're using. So there's different models of the accounts, and then within the accounts, now you're going to have different subscription, different service levels as well. Enterprise agreement, totally different world than the pay as you go and the Microsoft customer agreement types of accounts, because now you're getting into, you're going to have a TAM, a technical account manager, and you're going to have all that, I don't want to say technical stuff when it comes to customer support, but it all that stuff's wrapped into your customer agreement, and which is way beyond my pay grade, because now we're talking in the numbers, right? They bundle all that stuff up with your licenses and all that fun stuff, and I'm totally like, I have no idea what that world is about, and you do not want me dealing with numbers. So give me the technical side, I'm okay with. I'm not a bean counter, so, but from a subscription standpoint, if it's just yourself and you want to try it out, pay as you go, small shop, Microsoft customer agreement, which is like sort of that middle ground between an enterprise agreement and pay as you go, and that tier seems to work for a lot of small organizations, because then you get a good service level, right? Your support and whatnot. It's not going to cost you too much, but it's not going to be the free one where you have to wait 8 hours, for support. So we do have middle grounds of where you can be.
And one of the things I'm bringing up for everybody right now are some documentation on the big billing and cost management stuff that comes along with Azure. So these are some docs that you can go ahead and take a look that are really super complementary to the things that Phoummala and I are talking about today. And one of the things I think is really cool is that in the end, all these subscriptions go through something as simple as using like Azure CLI. Like you can manage all these using CLI queries, making it a super like modular way to work with it. Doesn't mean just sitting in front of a portal all the time and making, like, if you really want to get information about things like this, you can get it all out of the CLI. I think that's another big power of like the Azure Resource Manager doing all the things for you.
Well, not only that, but so you can create subscriptions using ARM templates as well. You can create subscriptions using the CLI. You don't have to be in the portal. All this can be scripted out.
So let's take a look at it. Let me see if I can find that subscription. ARM
I don't have it off the top of my head, but there you can script out creating subscriptions.
Well, here's one to create. So I see that you can actually work. So let's actually start giving them a bigger idea of like the subscription. Let me see if I can find us a really good doc on those hierarchies.
Actually,
you have something? Because that'd be super
I
helpful.
had it up, and of course, I don't want to say the browser I'm using went pooped out on me. But
sure. Let me
get it back here.
So one of the things I guess we could talk about that makes this a lot easier is like subscriptions as a big idea, and then Phoummala will probably get into it a little bit more once she gets everything settled. Subscriptions is a big idea. It's where your cost begins. And I think that that's the real way to think about it. And whether your cost is a free account, whether your cost is some sort of invoice like a net 50 or something like that you've done through working with a TAM, like a technical account manager here at Microsoft, you could do that. Or of course, there are these credited accounts that you get because maybe you're using Visual Studio Pro, maybe you're using MS SQL, and there's some credit that you get. These are all the things that these different subscriptions allow you to draw cost from. And so, Phoummala, at some point, that cost is actual spend. It's not always credit. And when we start using Azure, we can get $200 in free credit. And I know you've done some stuff about explaining, like that video that I showed everybody today was just a brief portion of a video I know you did about all the things that you can do with a free account. And I think it's actually really cool that getting started, you get a pretty robust and full kind of account.
So I do have, here's a document here. Let me, here I can show you my.
Sure. And just to say that there's these services that are a part of Azure, like Cosmos, App Service. These are fundamental basic portions of Azure. They are all capable of being free for you to use for long term. So even if you don't end up having a project that you're going to spend money on or in production, you can at least use the lower free versions that'll allow you to kind of keep building and learning and eventually turn it into production.
So we just previewed giving you the ability to create Azure subscriptions programmatically. Did I say that right? Programmatically. Sort of a tongue twister for me. But it's right here in our docs. If you can give me a second, I can share that out here in our docs here.
And what's great is when you want to sign up for Azure, it's as simple as going through a form. You'll provide some username, password, and if you need help. So here's the great thing: we talk about Learn. We've talked about Learn a bunch today, huh? You can go here into Learn, and you can start the AZ900, and what you'll see is the free account link. And then you can just click Start Free. You can also follow the FunByte 16 link that's in the AKA. The $200 in credit gives you services, part of your subscription. And I think that's just one of the free subscriptions that you get. And of course, we said there's the pay-as-you-go, which is drawing down costs from a credit card or your invoice service. And then, like I said, there's the member services accounts. So you got something for me, Phoummala?
Yep, I'm just pulling this up so you can see. So here's what we previewed last month. I want to say this month. I keep thinking we are in September. We're in October. So on August, at the end of August, we previewed programmatically create Azure subscriptions here. So it's in preview. So basically, we're just using some APIs. And if you go to our doc site here, it just breaks down how you can create subscriptions programmatically for an enterprise account. So that's a caveat here, right? And the reason why it's enterprise account is because a lot of enterprise accounts usually is a large organization or a medium-sized organization, and you're going to have multiple subscriptions for different roles, right? You may have a test dev area, or you may have subscriptions based off of an application. And,
so something kind of like this. So I just wanted to bring up something that you're kind of talking about. There's these subscription guides that we have this document for.
Yes.
And I think it's super. Let me share this with everybody.
Yeah, it breaks it down for people. I love this guide because it does break down how you define your subscriptions. What I won't say define, but lay it out, right? What roles are going to play. And depending on how your organization is set up, you may have subscriptions that are based on functional needs or based off departments. It's based off how your organization is run.
Sure.
Some organizations will just break it down to, okay, test, dev, QA. But then you may have test, dev, QA for a specific environment. Let's say finance. Finance can have their own subscription area. And then they've got, test dev QA, individual subscriptions for their specific application. So it's all depending on how your business model is set up. But
so I like how, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's actually a great model right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love this diagram. Yeah, so this diagram really starts with org management group. Let's think about that as, Contoso. We'll just think of that as Contoso. And then within Contoso, we're going to have some individual environments that we're going to store everything in. So we're not actually going to talk about what makes up workload 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not what we're interested in today. We've talked about what those workloads are made of and the different elements of Azure. What we're going to talk about today, the most important, I think, is like what is putting Azure together for you in a way that creates a reasonable hierarchy and the components within that hierarchy make sense to you. So at the very Yep.
Like,
So
it's like your framework, right? The structure of your environment. It's almost the bones, like,
and it
of your
always starts
home.
with Azure AD. Azure AD
Yes.
is kind
Yes.
of like the bones. And this is the thing you and I talked about months ago about how Azure AD is like the thing that's the foundation of what makes all this work. And so that maybe it's starting from the top, but it truly is the foundation of everything. Without Azure
Mhm.
AD, you can't eventually set this RBAC policy that goes on top of these individual workloads. And these individual workloads are somehow or another, they're broken up into individual subscriptions. And so, Phoummala, tell me if I'm right. So Contoso, right, has two environments. They have, let's just call this dev or pre-prod. This is pre-prod, and then this is prod. And so this particular is another another group, I would imagine, another organization.
Another management group.
Yeah. And then within that management group, we have individual subscriptions, and
Yep.
those subscriptions could be linked to different credit cards or could be linked to different invoicing services. Am I right by saying that?
In theory, yes, but this diagram in particular, that's more for an enterprise. So all this is going to go back to your enterprise agreement, your overall account billing.
Sure.
It will break it down, so you can do. And actually, I have a video that I can show the viewers here on the analysis of.
Yeah, if you want to send me that to the private, that would be really cool. If you send me it to the private, I'll go ahead and I can see if I can queue it up for everybody. But I think if you want to, maybe while we're doing that, if you want to give everybody just kind of a breakdown of this guy right here. Like this is, I think, a really incredible kind of piece of information that we can kind of look at. And I'll actually make it a little easier for us to see. And I'll let you kind of.
I was gonna say that's a little small. My age is starting to show.
Give me one second. Let me make it a little easier for us to take a look. What's really cool.
I use the large fonts now. I gladly admit I use large fonts. my age is coming out now. So
here. So I'm uploading it as an overlay, and we'll take a look at it for a second. There you go. How's that?
Oh, so much better. Oh my gosh, Jay. Oh. Okay, let me.
So why don't you get me that video link, and while you're doing that, you can go ahead and kind of explain to people what we're kind of looking at here, and maybe from a high level, give us some ideas of where the business would be, putting their different types of invoicing profiles here.
Okay, so you've got this little diagram. So this is let's say an enterprise, right? So we've got corporate IT up there at the top. We've got production, development, QA. So these are different management groups that are managing the individual subscriptions the way it's broken down. So corporate IT is at the top. They're pretty much I don't want to say the domain admins, but they've got the top of the layer in terms of managing all the subscriptions, and then they've created additional.
That's Contoso's like corporate IT.
Yeah, think of it as like your domain admins,
Gotcha.
and then or cloud admins now. So then we've got these management groups down here: production, development, and QA. So these management groups, the production management group is managing the subscriptions for mission critical, protected data, and other production. Those are three separate subscriptions. So the production management group manages those three. And then there's a development management group. That management group manages non-production applications. And so you'll see like the resources under non-production. There's app 1, 4, and 5. And then there's a QA management group. And that management group is staging, and it looks like it only has one workload, which is app 1. So with the use of management groups, I like to describe it. It's almost like they're almost like OU structures, right? So that management group is managing the subscriptions, but also the resources inside. So you can apply policies to a management group, and everything just filters down. And since there's a top one, the corporate IT, you could apply policy to the top and it would filter down as well. You can apply blueprints to these management groups that filter down to the individual subscriptions. But then you can also manage the subscriptions individually inside. And then from a subscription, from a billing cost analysis standpoint, everything's going to be rolled up into enterprise agreement account, right? With our cost management feature, we have the ability to run reports and analyze all the subscriptions that you have in your account, and show you your spending and in the different how the different workloads are running. And then that's where you can also throw in your Azure Advisor, which is a free service that we have that also kind of gives you, I want to say, tips and tricks for optimizing your individual subscriptions. Let's say, you've got workloads that they're running, but they're not doing anything. They're sitting on idling, or maybe they're running a little hot. So Azure Advisor can advise you on, hey, you've got a workload here that's not doing anything. Maybe you want to shut that down because that's costing you money by just running.
See if I can bring it up. Here it is, Advisor. So bringing up Advisor is just about going into your top of your bar, and you can go ahead and it'll bring you right here to Advisor. And so let's take a look at some recommendations that I have here. So this is going to just go over my
Advisor is free. So everybody should know Azure Advisor is free for any Azure subscription account. So, I mean, it's you don't need to pay for it. And it's a great utility because it's going to give you recommendations on cost, security, optimization.
So let's take a look. Reduce service costs by using Azure Advisor. So this is a place where I would go to, optimize. Oh, that's even interesting. So this is a big, big deal. But let's talk about this. I worked in databases a really, really long time. And one of the things that I learned that people have a very difficult time doing is sizing what they're going to need for these types of transactional ACID databases. NoSQL, that optimized spend tends to be less of a intensive process sometimes because you don't always have like ACID guarantees. You don't have those atomic guarantees that you expect. So it's using less. You might be doing it a lot with reads, but your writes tend not to be atomic. And so you're not necessarily using what you need, but the storage, and you might not be right sizing what you're doing, and you're going to end up spending just a ton of money. And I think the one way, go ahead.
What I was going to say is with Azure Advisor, if you keep scrolling down there's a lot more recommendations from a database perspective too. So, it's going to let you know, or it's going to advise you on how to optimize your resources. And this is all free. Like a lot of people don't realize that. And it's I don't say simply as turning it on, but yes, it's
I'm going to use
it's a simple turn on, and then you're going to get alerts, right? But that's where you got to optimize your alerts. What do you want to get out of this?
So this is kind of a busy account that I have access to, and I think it's a really interesting one that we could look at Advisor with. And so this is one of my subscriptions. And so what you can do is I have a multiple subscriptions. I have my own for my and we can do that as well. We can include both mine and the other subscriptions so that what we can have is a broad look at all the recommendations that we have. So let's look at the cost optimizations we have here. Is right-sized and underutilized SQL. So it's got 5 different SQL databases, and that 5 different SQL is just could be a ton. And that really doesn't always work for everybody. We know when we lift and shift things, the big risks that we take, right, Phoummala?
No, lift and shift. It sounds easy and simple, but a lot of times it's more of a headache, and you end up shooting yourself in the foot. I'm going to say 60, 70% of the time, because most organizations have some type of skeleton. You've got some type of customization, and when you're lifting and shifting, you may break some of that customization, and then you've got to go back and clean that up or fix it while you're shifting away. So yeah.
So I got the video that you brought me to take a look at, and I am going to bring it up 1 second. It looks like there's no audio, so I'm guessing you're going to kind of narrate what's going on, right?
Yeah, and we'll just talk through it here. So this is our cost management utility.
Let me bring it up 1 sec. There you go.
Hopefully I sent you the right one. So this is our cost management service that we have for you. And this is the cost analysis portion of it. And what it's doing here is you can see we've got some actual numbers of this account, and it's showing you from a cost analysis perspective what the forecast is and what the actual numbers are. And you can see, look at this. It shows you what the accumulated cost is so far, and what the forecast versus the actual cost. So right now, the actual cost is 56,000, and you're forecasted to be 71,000. Let's just round that up, right? And this is based off of what your current workload is currently running, and what the forecast, what's it seeing, right? Based off what you're doing now and what it's predicting that you're going to be at next month here, and as you can see, that's what 20 almost 20 some thousand increase. So that's the cost analysis portion of that. And as you can see, this actually breaks it down a little bit more into the service name, location, and then the enrollment account names. Lots of colors and lots of numbers.
Yeah, I think that this is, if I'm right, this is enrollment account name. Are these the different like organizations that the management groups are a part of, or are these specific management groups?
So these are, yes, I won't say yes, but these are your enrollment account names. So it's the individual, I guess, subscription accounts.
It's the subscription name. Okay. Yeah. And then here we have, so it breaks it down where's our biggest spend regionally? Like, where are we putting it?
Yep. So it's location, and then the service name.
And we can see VMs are a costly one, which makes a lot of sense, considering VMs are a pretty high intense CPU and other things that you need. So I see here group names, so you can group it and take a look at by specific resources.
Yep, you can go resource type. There's also,
and that's really kind of pretty too.
So yeah, the cost management feature, it's great. I think it's great for everybody because from a technology standpoint, we can see what our resources are doing, what it's costing us. But then from a management standpoint, they can see the same thing. And like I said earlier, this is real money. The cloud is real. Like, even though you can't see it, you're paying for it, and this shows you exactly what you're using, how much it's costing you. I mean, it breaks it down to, if you look here, what virtual machines is costing right now, $12,000. SQL servers costing, almost $2,000, and then for disk storage, costing $4,000. Cluster servers, another $4,000. I mean, this literally breaks it down to exactly what you're doing, how much you're paying for it. And this is going to help you understand, okay, what do I really need, right? What am I really using this for? From a technology standpoint, I like seeing this, because now I'm like, okay, I was spinning all this stuff up. This is great, but then I see how much it's costing me. It makes you think about what you're using, right?
It's also one of those scary lift and shift kind of things that happen. Where and so let's talk about that right sizing thing we were just talking about a few minutes ago. Right sizing is a very difficult thing, because you can see these VMs and these different scale sets, which are two different VM sets of workloads.
It's $12,000. So now you're going to ask, what's costing me? Okay, virtual machines. Why is virtual machines cost me $12,000? Not why, but okay, what's this all doing? It's going to make you question and think about what you're actually doing in the cloud, rather than just spinning stuff up and running. You're going to.
And here's a great question.
Things are going to be more thoughtful about it.
Did you buy that particular VM because the hardware you had previously in the data center matched it? And did you think that you would have to one-to-one it? Or
that happens a lot, lift and shift.
Or did you not realize that you didn't have to put something into a virtual machine like your database? You could have made use of something like Azure SQL, MS SQL service, or something like that that manages your database, takes care of your backups, all that stuff, and then reduces how much these virtual machines actually need to have all these 24/7 running kind of services, plus all the complementary things you need to do that, like monitoring, backup, alerts, all that stuff. I mean, and not just that, and the DBA work, DBA work on these individual machines.
So this actually reminds me when back in the former life, I was a VMware admin, and our idea of lift and shift, lift and shift back then was P2Ving, right? Physical to virtual. And I P2V'd, oh gosh, several hundred servers. And when we P2V'd, it was lift and shift. We are doing the P2V converter. We keep all the resources the same. We move them over, and once we get everything moved over, then we'll go through and we'll optimize. Well, halfway through, some of our machines that we were moving over were a little big, and once they were converted and they were done, I was running VCops, and I'm taking a look. I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I need to reduce some of this, because when we P2V, we kept the server usage pretty much identical, same CPU, same memory. Well, it's not utilizing all of this, but it's assigned to it. And so we went through and we actually had to reduce some of the specs on the machines so that we were right sizing everything. And then we could add more, machines, virtual machines to our environment. But it's the same thing with lift and shift in the cloud. You're lifting and shifting over, and most likely you're going to try to keep the specs the same because you don't want to break anything. But now that you're here and you see that, holy moly, I just spent 12 grand on virtual machines. Let's take a look at this. Or, my storage was 4 grand. Why is my storage 4 grand? Let's take a look. And do we need to clean up some stuff, or do we need to reduce some memory or some CPU on these VMs that, we lifted and shifted over? And like you said, do we need to change did we really have to lift and shift SQL? Could we have just moved that data into, a SQL service rather than moving that whole virtual machine? Things like that come into play now, because now the analyzing portion of it, now this is the work of going, okay, I'm optimizing. Now I get to, I don't want to say cherry pick, but clean up and say, okay, I need to clean this up and let's make it better. And the Azure cost management service is great for that, but it's great for also making sure that you're on budget, because you can create budgets too with this, and it keeps you on task, especially a test dev environment.
And that kind of brings up something I wanted to bring here. So I'm going to make it bigger so we can both see, because my eyes ain't that great.
You're only a year younger than me, Jay, so I'm your future.
I had LASIK, so I got LASIK, and my eyes.
I remember that.
2020 is great in the light, but this is a little darker in my room. On a screen, I definitely need to kind of squint a little. Thank you for watching old people on computers today. I really appreciate you listening to us talk about squinting. Anyhow, Phoummala,
it makes us human.
So I brought up this little environment that I have here, which has got a number of different services that I put into here. And what I really like is the way you talked about just being able to analyze what's here. So this is coming from my subscription here, which is CA Cloud Advocate, J.A. Gordon Demo Test, which is where I do all my demos. And so I wanted to bring this up because I'm not using a ton of money, obviously, but I mean, it can actually do the things that you're talking about, even with just a few. And I think that that's what's great, because you don't have to be in an enterprise. You don't need to be in a huge organization to start understanding how these things work and how you save money by using these tools.
The nice thing about, the thing I love about the cloud in general, but Azure and even AWS, right? They're telling us how much it's costing us, right? Regardless of what cloud provider you're using, there's always going to be a reporting area that tells you, here's your resources and here's much you're spending. It's kind of like when you go pump gas. It's it's the meter, right? And It's constantly rolling, and that's pretty much what cost management is. It's your meter that tells you, okay, my resources are running, and here's how much I'm utilizing, and here's how much it's costing.
So
The
I
price
have
per
up here.
gallon, you know?
I have up here the cost analysis section, and within here, everybody can see, you can see the scope of when you want to do your cost analysis. So I think quarterly is really useful, but I don't want to do it this quarter. I think I want to look at last quarter. I want to see.
You can look at you can look at the years nice too if you're going to be doing any budgets forecasting. I know most businesses, they've got a budget, right? You've got a budget for the following year. So that works out well for that because you can see what you've spent, either quarterly or yearly or monthly, because then you can do your numbers that way.
And I don't think you can really like poo-poo the idea of how like getting this information like this quickly for your
it's fast.
for your finance team when they need to start doing auditing on different stuff. The fact that they can go to me and say, what was the billing for X to Y? And then what could have we done to save? The fact that I could go into a portal, do this, download the report into Excel, which is what they would want it, or a CSV so they could put it into another service. The point is that these services take away that fear that comes along sometimes with doing cost analysis, because I think a lot of technologists who have to start managing their cloud accounts, they start recognizing that they're starting to have to pay attention to the money.
Here's what you can do. I'm gonna throw out another little kink here. You can create your finance people. I'm sure you've got the IT manager or the IT budget person, the purchaser. You can give them read-only access. You can give them, using RBAC, you can give them access to this where they can look at the reports, run the reports. That's why RBAC is there. We're giving you the ability to manage your cloud environment to the way your business operates. So if you have a different team of people that manage billing, you can give them access so they can see this. Read-only access, or you can give them specific access into the cost management. You can create custom roles so that they're able to do these reports and whatnot.
And so this is another thing.
That's the beauty of it, right?
And so this is another thing that I've never messed around with, but just based on what we've talked about, I want to bring it up. So here in my subscription, I just brought it over here. I can go here to budgets on the left side.
Yes, you can create a budget, and I love this concept for test environments. And,
so let's say
dev environments, because we spin stuff up a lot in test environments. Oh, it's just for test. It's just for test. Well, if you create a budget, it locks it.
Let's say for my account, my shows, AzureFunBytes, I've decided I want to have a budget within my scope of my account. So I can call it FunBytes. And let's say that it's monthly, correct? We'll start it as far as starting, and then we'll have it run for maybe just a year. We'll just say it's a 1-year budget. And we'll say that monthly, AzureFunBytes has $200 a month. And then what we can do is click next. It'll create this budget. And then what we can do is, I believe, apply this to resource groups, correct?
Yep.
And so then when we apply this to the resource group, I'll be able to have this budget state, this is the only amount of money you're allowed to spend for this project.
Yep.
And I think what would be really cool about that, Phoummala, is let's say
we can get alerts on it too if you're nearing your budget, right? You can set threshold.
Cost alerts right here, huh? I see. So I can go here and so you create the budget there, and then you get alerted after you've created the budget. Is that right?
Yes. You have to create the budget and then create the alert, because if you can't alert on a budget if you don't have a budget.
Hey,
and you know what? When you create the alerts, you can have it be sent to yourself. You could be sent to let's say you're optimizing, or you're creating this alert or this budget for a subscription for the accounting team. And they're just, the developers for the accounting team they're running hog wild. You can create alerts that go directly to those developers and the accounting team manager, whoever's in charge. Create alerts from. So when they get close to their threshold, they're getting alerted and they're like, hey, then they'll know, like, oh, yeah, I think we're either using too much, or we're not, maybe we need to scale back, or the manager can go, what are you guys doing, if they're doing something that nobody knows about. So it's kind of it's a safety net, but it's also a warning for people to really understand what you're deploying, and it prevents the cloud sprawl, which happens. This way, you're actually deploying what you really need and what you want to deploy. Because a lot of times we spin, like I'm guilty of it. I spin stuff up and I'm like, oh, I want to try this, and I forget about it. I mean, how often I'm sure you've done it before. You spin something up to try it, and then you walk away from it, and then it's like it's still running, and then you realize, like, oh, wow, I forgot to turn that off. That happens a lot in enterprises. It happens a lot in small shops. Regardless, it happens, and these alerts will let you know. Once you set that budget, and if you left something running, and you've hit your budget, and like, wait a minute, I haven't really used anything there. Then you can go back and look and go, oh, I left something on. Turn it off.
Well, I got this right here. I meant to share this, excuse me, but I wanted to share this particular thing. This image I thought was really interesting about budgets, and the fact that it shows all these different types of budgets, the progress and where they are, and if they're overspent. And I think that's really interesting. It seems like it's a really,
it doesn't shut it. Yeah. Budgets actually, you determine what the alerts do, because you can create, is the right term, playbooks? Because I know we change terminologies all the time, but based off the alerts, you can determine what they do. Send an email, or you can actually have services shut down. That's kind of extreme, though, right? But just creating that alert itself is good. But if let's say it's a test environment that is test, there's no production, you could extend that alert and have a script run, or some type of playbook, and say, okay, based off this alert, shut down everything because I exceeded my budget.
And that's interesting. There's other things that people can do for their environments, and I think one of them that is really interesting, especially for VMs, is having environments that shut off automatically. I think that that's a really, really important one, especially when it comes to things like working with dev environments that your team is only going to be using because maybe you have really strict work hours from X to Y time. You can go ahead and say, you know what, every day, 6 p.m., they're gone, they're done, they're shut down. And even here's a great way to think about it. Maybe you shouldn't have environments that exist more than a day. Maybe you should have ways to spin them up as you need them and destroy them once you're done.
Security organizations sometimes have that. I know certain organizations that have certain 3-letter acronyms. They don't work from home. You must be on site. You can't even take your phone into the building, and everything is so locked down. And when you're out, when you leave, you're not in. And so you can create similar types of environment like that. Like you said, the hours, they can only be spun up at certain times, just to lock it up so that you're making sure that you're optimizing, but also from a security perspective, you don't have some rogue engineer or developer working off hours when they're not supposed to be, because who knows, right? And anything is possible nowadays.
Well, Phoummala, I got some good news for us, and I got some bad news.
I always like
the good news. The good news is that I think we did a great job today in explaining all this stuff to everybody. I think that you and I took some time today to really get everyone to understand a little bit more about, using subscriptions within your Azure account, having people understand how important it is to put some time into cost analysis, and to really think about what you're going to spend, how you're going to spend it, when you're going to spend it.
Yeah, this was fun. I always enjoy coming back and hanging out with you.
Well, you know what? I can't wait till we get to hang out again in person somewhere. Maybe I'll be out in Pennsylvania. Maybe you'll be here in New York, or maybe we'll be somewhere in the world talking to people like you, who we used to love to travel the world to talk to. Now we love coming to you in places like Twitch every week, where we get to chill out. Just want to tell everybody some cool stuff before I get out of here. Phoummala, how do we find you on the internet?
At Exchange Goddess on Twitter. On LinkedIn is Phoummala Schmitt.
Cool.
So,
And I got this going on for myself today. If you would like to, I will be doing a talk today for DevOps Days Buffalo. It's about, I don't know, in about 40 minutes, maybe an hour.
You are busy, Jay.
I am busy. And then after that, actually, we're doing a Q&A today, right after. And I want everybody to take a look before I get out of here. But there's a Q&A that we're going to be doing for people who attend it or who didn't attend it. It's going to be Teams Live. I am so bad with getting links on a friggin' second. So Phoummala, would you do me a favor and vamp?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Just vamp. Tell me something interesting.
Oh, interesting. So I put on a Star Wars t-shirt in my dog today, a Princess Leia t-shirt, and it was too small for her, so now it looks like she's wearing like this super, super tight spandex shirt, and it's like cropped. It looks hilarious. And she was running out to her best friend, which is one of those Saint Bernard dogs. And you have to, my dog's like this small, and a Saint Bernard's like the size of a horse. And she comes running out, and she's got this Princess Leia shirt, but it's real tight, and her hair's all fluffy. Yeah, it's just, yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, that was my day today. And she ate my son's Birkenstocks.
Oh, that's brutal. Well, anybody, just before we go, I want to say thank you for watching. If you would like to come to that Q&A, I'm going to be doing it. I just put the link in the chat, and then here it is right here. Come and see me, aka.ms, pop-up AMA-DevOps Day. Come chill with me a little bit. I want to answer your questions. That's at 4 o'clock. Phoummala, thank you so much. I can't wait to do this again with you. So bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Well, that's Phoummala. She was great to have here with me. I always feel so lucky that I get to work with so many amazing, smart, funny people. And with that, Phoummala is just a really special friend and coworker, and I'm really, really lucky that she gets to do stuff like this with me. So speaking of doing stuff like this, next week, I'm going to do something like this, but I'm going to have Anthony Bartolo, who focuses on AI. We're going to go over and look at some of the crazy stuff around AI. It's going to be really, really rad. I cannot wait. I can't wait. I'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. This is Jay, and you've been watching another one of these funny things called Azure FunBytes. See ya.